Welcome to the Racing Pigeon International Podcast. We talk about everything racing pigeons, the latest news, results, events, and interviews from around the world.
Howdy everybody, hope you're well. So this is a quick podcast, live podcast, if you're catching this live. Welcome to one of the few live podcasts we do at Racing Pigeon International Podcast. If you're not, welcome if you're listening to it on your podcast provider. So today we're talking about selling pigeons, not just in the UK, internationally. Where do you use to sell your pigeons? What sites do you use? How do you sell them? And obviously this is a bit of a conversational thing. So if you're listening to this podcast live, please get involved. If you're not listening to this live and you're listening to the podcast or you're watching the podcast on YouTube, then please let me know and give me some feedback after you've listened or watched to it. You can email me at mark@racingpigeoninternational.com. You can WhatsApp me on +44 7887 345 600. That's +44 7887 345 600. Email me, mark@racingpigeoninternational.com, with any of the feedback you've got. So we're into, as we record this now, we're into selling season. A lot of sales are getting up and running. A lot of the auction sites are getting busy. I've been speaking to somebody over a few days ago now who sells a lot of pigeons online. And he said, I'm just adding up the commissions I charge and get charged by different auction sites, and I have no issue with the auction sites. I've got no issue with them. I think they provide a great service, and obviously it's a great way of people being able to sell their pigeons. They're not right for everybody. Obviously some of the auction sites are suited more to the higher end pigeons for sale. Specifically in the UK for a minute here, there's not that many places where you can sell pigeons all year round if you've got a few spare young birds or a few spare stock birds in the off-sailing season, let's say. The only site really that you can use in the UK is LMR. And you get charged a commission for doing so. All good. Now, outside of the UK, and this is called the Racing Pigeon International Podcast, so we very much want to talk about internationally as well. Where do you guys that are listening or watching outside of the UK sell your pigeons? What do you use? Obviously, we all know that you cannot sell pigeons on Facebook. You stand the chance of getting your account at best suspended for a day or two, at worst deleted. We run Racing Pigeon International, the Facebook group, and we have had in the past many problems with people putting up maybe completely innocently pigeons that they've got, and it's a real nightmare on Facebook. Yeah, certainly if you run a group, I know of a group that has been closed down because of it. So let's talk about the UK for a minute. UK and Ireland, where do you sell your pigeons? How much commission are you paying? And where do you think the best place to sell your pigeons or your pigeon-related equipment is? Outside of the UK, the same question. Where do you go? Do you put adverts in the magazines of your country? Is there a website that you use? What have you? For me, like we've got my sons Andy and I have got some stock birds that we're going to be selling off as soon as they're through the molt. And I like the idea of being able to list them ourselves and sell them ourselves. They're not necessarily like very expensive pigeons where I would feel that a high-end auction site like Elite Pigeon Auctions here in the UK is, or Northern Premier Auctions, they're not that level of pigeon. Most of them are not that would warrant them going on there. There are other good auction services around. There's a few auction services that are not so good either, but that's a subjective opinion. But certainly Elite Pigeon Auctions here in the UK is a great site. Les Green's Northern Premier Auctions is also another great site. In the UK, LMR attracts a lot of listings because it's open all year round. At any time, you can go and list the pigeons yourselves. What equivalents do you have wherever you are? Now, yes, there is partly a reason that I'm asking this. And the reason is I have been thinking for quite a few years now that there's no real global marketplace for pigeons. Many of the sites on there, out there at the moment, they're very localized. They're UK specific or US specific. There's no real global place for one big global eBay, essentially. Mick Golden says Jerry McCourt in Ireland for some of the top breeders. Absolutely. If you want Irish pigeons, Jerry McCourt is the man to go to and the man to auction off your pigeons. Thank you for your input, Mick. And Manxa Racing Loft in the USA, tell me where you sell your pigeons. Oh, Manxa Racing has read my mind. So Manxa Racing Loft, he uses iPigeon and Best Pigeon in the US, that is. But there's no real centralized one place that if you're from the US, you're from Australia, anywhere, you can go to and see pigeons for sale in your country or other parts of the world. Not that I know of anyway. Obviously, you've got the really big pippers of this world, and they do auction pigeons from all over the world, but they're very, very high end. There's no service that you can go and list your own pigeons or anything like that. So, yeah, Hennessy Loft, New York Pigeon Racing says it's very difficult to import birds to the US. Yeah, it's more expensive than difficult. My understanding, I was speaking to a friend of mine in Holland a couple of days ago, and he said he's been requests from the US, and he puts them to animals to fly that are in Europe, and then they go over, they have to be in quarantine, etc. I actually looked at getting some of the old American Trenton pigeons from the US, and it's equally as expensive. It's like £150 per pigeon, and when you're only paying $50 per pigeon, it's quadruples the cost. I want some of the old American Trentons, which are still in the US, but sadly no longer here around in Europe. So, yeah, Max the Racing Pigeon Loft said, how do you get around the quarantine depending on the country? Again, quarantine's an issue. So the reason I'm asking this is this. So where do you find the most, what do you think the best sites are for selling? And why do we think there's not one global site out there where no matter where you are in the world, that's the place to go to? When I was buying stock pigeons for my son 2 years ago, certainly here in the UK, there are that many auction sites running, and I actually missed a couple of birds potentially that I would have bid on because there's that many going on at the same time. And one of the things I've been saying and thinking for a while is having one centralized place where all of the auction sites that want to be involved, all of their listings come into this site. So like a global hub. So the idea that a global site that lists other auctions that are going on and lists its own, not that it would be an auction place. This is the idea I've got. So let me run this idea by you. I really want your feedback. Imagine a place where instead of paying a commission, you just pay a flat fee. Not a flat fee per pigeon, but like a Gumtree type deal where you pay a flat fee to list your pigeons or your equipment or whatever it is for an amount of period of days, say for 30 days, or you can have an account there for a bit more money that enables you to list up to 10 adverts at a time. or you can have an account that allows you to list as many different things as you want over a year. And then if you're a business that's in the business of selling pigeons a lot, not an individual that just wants to sell some off, you can have a store. Like I speak to people all the time that want to start selling pigeons off their own website, and that's okay to do, but it takes maintenance and what have you. So if you're a business that's selling pigeons or products or whatever it is, you could have a store on this site. It's just a normal monthly flat fee, nominal monthly flat fee, and you can sell as many pigeons or products or whatever it is you want on there. But then in addition to that, and technically it's not easy, but it is possible. Imagine then that in the same site, as you're browsing through, auctions from different places are featured in there, in this site. So you can say, I'm looking for a sprint cock, and you'll see all the sprint cocks on one page. And they're not necessarily from within the site, their own listings. They can be pulling in other listings from all of these different places. Yeah, filtered by country, filtered by sex of the bird, etc. One place to be able to put them in and have all of them coming in. So in real time, as a new auction goes live, the auction information will come in. So this idea of this site I've got knocking around in my head is not competing with other auction houses. It's helping them get more exposure. Now, the question is, would people use that? Would people prefer to use that? Just pay a flat fee, no commissions, you deal direct with the customers, your contact info, little as much or whatever as you want is on there. Like I said, like a Gumtree type thing. Would people use that? I know from some of the people I know that sell pigeons a lot that it would save them a lot of money. As I said, it's not going against the auction houses. If anything, it's going to help them. So yeah, the idea of you can go and list your pigeons or your products or whatever pigeon related for a flat fee. If you're a business, you can have your own store within it, and then products within that store can get put into the listings and what have you. And then as an extension of that, auctions and sales of different birds online also get bought into that site for people to be able to see. It promotes those auction houses. Why is nobody doing this at the moment? Why is there no one central eBay type hub, no matter where you are? I'm not just talking about a UK and Ireland specific. I'm talking about you can come onto the site, it'll see that you're based in the USA. Do you want to see US only ads? Yes or no? Yes, it's only going to show US ads. No, it's going to show you everything, and then you can start searching. I know for me on a lot of the sites, when we were buying stock, it gets frustrating. In fact, I told Les at Elamar, I said, you need a filter on there. I was looking for specifically a sprint hen for the stock loft, and I have to search for all the listings. I don't want to do that. I want to just search for hens. At least I want to just search for hens. And Les implemented the cock or the hen filter based on my suggestion. But in addition, I want to be able to say, right, show me all of the sprint hens or the long distance cocks and have them in one place that I can just browse through them without having to search through stuff. There's a lot that could be done with this, but would people use it? Would people use it? Would people use it internationally? Obviously, it would be translated into language based upon where you're coming from in the world, etc. So like a hub, really, multiple listing hub, like Hennessy Lofts in New York have said, a multiple listing hub to where it's pulling in with the permission of, with the working and together with different auction places and websites, bringing them in. It's not something you can just go and pull the information off unless you've got a working thing with them. People would have to sign up to it, other auction houses or sales pages. But the idea being is you're not working against anybody. Yes, people can come and list their own pigeons or products for sale for a flat fee, but it's also helping to promote the different auctions that are going on. So in that example I've just given, I want to buy a sprint cock. it's not going to just show you all the sprint cocks available on the site. It's going to show you all the sprint cocks available, in theory anyway, that are going on around the world at different auction places. And it would obviously show this is an auction that's happening on Elite Pigeon Auctions, or this is an auction that's happening on Pippa. And then it would take you off to that listing if you wanted it. Would people use it? And let's get down to the brass tacks a minute. I'm thinking, like, if you paid a £10 flat fee or a $10 flat fee to list for 30 days, or you paid a $30 fee to be able to list X more, or a nominal amount yearly to be able to list as many as you want, and then business customers could have their own store for $30, $40 a month and list as many products as they want, and we could do advertising and what have you. Would people use it? I think it'd be relatively easy to get people listing. It's the thing with anything like this is it's a chicken and egg. Let's call it a pigeon and egg situation. You need the listings to get the traffic being people, visitors. That's what we call it in the industry. You need the listings to get the traffic, but then you reach a point where you need the traffic to get the listings. Because the reason some of these sites are popular is because they know they'll go and put them up. They'll list something by auction or what have you, and they are going to get people looking at them. So I want your feedback, guys. Hennessy Love said he'd definitely use it. Mick Golden says your One-loft information is very good, Mark. Thank you very much, Mick. I did see you post on my Facebook about that. That's probably a subject for another day, the One-loft, but I'll briefly mention it as Mick's brought it up now. Once again, that caused a whole bunch of controversy. It brought some haters out. I laughed these people off. Listen, that One-loft information was public information that I collated together based on Benzing Live, and information that's on those sites, their websites. And I said all along, the information, if any of it's incorrect, for instance, when people turn the Benzing clock off, they could have had birds arrive back from the final. Fine, tell me what that is, I'll update it. As far as I know, to the best of my knowledge, all of that information is now updated. Most of the One-loft people in the UK liked it, helped me get the right information in. A couple didn't. It is what it is. I think the sport generally needs thinking like this more. I think the One-loft, I've said all along, I'm a big fan of One-loft races. I think how they're being done now and some different changes, they can help move the sport forward. I'm a big fan. Apart from one One-loft race, which most people know about, not going to go into it now. Apart from one One-loft race here in the UK, I like and admire the work that every single One-loft race is doing. If they're good people running it, I am only about helping those One-loft races and publicizing. But again, I have people saying, oh, what makes you qualified to put the stats together? Well, reality is I'm very good at computers. I'm very good at numbers and information. And that's the only qualification I've got. And I want to do it. I got a whole bunch of extensions to this. So the next thing I'm going to be doing is going to be doing some of the big One-loft races and the stats for big One-loft races. Ones in Africa, ones in Portugal, the ones in Thailand. I'm going to be putting them together. And then there will be those stats. And then we're going to compare how much harder is it to race in One-loft races in the UK versus these other places. One of the other things I want to do when I can is my goal is to put an entire list, an entire directory of all One-loft races, maybe not including China because that's a whole different ballgame, but outside of China, put an entire directory of every single One-loft race that's happening in the world in one place for people to look at. Some people would say, well, they're on Benzing. Well, they're not all on Benzing Live. Benzing's a good starting point, great resource, obviously. But if any of the Americans are watching, you know that not all of the One-loft races that happen in the US are on Benzing when Companion is the resource used. So I'm going to collate everything together and I'm going to put all of the information in one place. That's one of the other things I'm going to do. The other thing I've got planned is a links directory, so people can get a link on Racing Pigeon International, just giving people information about whatever it is they're doing. Anyway, I digress. Give me your feedback and thoughts. If you're listening to this on the podcast as it goes out, let me know. I would be interested. I have an amazing, I think it's an amazing domain name called pigeon-ads.com. Says what it does on the tin. I've had it now for a few years, and I'm considering making it a hub, a worldwide hub for buying, selling, trading pigeons and pigeon-related things. But if I do it, it won't charge a commission. It will at most charge a flat fee for buying and selling. And then technically, I would like to be able to get, and it's not easy depending on what websites run what things. Some websites are easier, some are not. Then the idea of being able to do deals with auctions is to be able to inject their listings into the site as well. I want your thoughts. I want your feedback, folks. Also, while I'm here, if you're listening now at the end of this, give me any other ideas of what you would like to see me thinking about doing and talking about on these podcasts. Just told you some of the ideas I've got that I'm going to be putting out. I like the idea of every single one-loft race outside of China. I would love to get the Chinese races list as well, but it's a whole other ball game. Outside of China, or a list of every single one-loft race that happens anywhere in the world, I want that as a directory. Let me know what you think. Would appreciate it. Thank you for watching. If you're watching live, I don't do many of these RPI podcasts live. I will continue to do some as it sees fit. I was amazed at the amount of people, nearly 700 people in 48 hours. I want to say a big thank you to everybody that subscribed to the podcast, the RPI podcast. If you haven't subscribed yet and you don't know what that means as such, when you go to podcast.racingpigeoninternational.com, you'll see a little subscribe button, and you can subscribe using Spotify, iTunes, Google, Amazon Music. If you subscribe to the podcast, anytime a new podcast comes out, you'll automatically get it delivered and notified that there's a new one come out. It's a great way of being able to keep up with what I'm doing. I've had nearly 700 people in 48 hours. I had 630 people in the first 24 hours download and listen to the podcast that I did a couple of days ago about the one-loft race stats. I run 3 different podcasts about different things. And the RPI podcast is miles ahead in listeners and viewers, miles ahead. It's going great. It's going really well. So thank you to everybody that's been listening and watching. And any of the podcasts I do, even if it's not me talking to camera, if you choose to listen or watch them on YouTube, if I ever do any interviews, it's always a video podcast that I do, like the one I did with Ian Evans a few weeks ago. But they're also on the Racing Pigeon International YouTube channel as well. And if it's not me on camera and it's just me listening, I make a video version of it on there as well. So you can watch it on there as well. So thank you very much. Again, my contact information with feedback for people that are tuning into the podcast after this live session. Email me, mark@racingpigeoninternational.com. You can WhatsApp me at +44 7887 345 600. And if you're watching or listening to this, if you're watching, I'll put that information on the end of the podcast as well. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I would love your thoughts and feedback. I've got a bunch of shorter podcasts planned about different things. I've been asked to do, for UK people, I've been asked to do a simple rundown of what is needed to fly across the channel into the continent. I'm going to be looking to do that because my son Xander has been through that process. So we're going to get together and do that. And I got a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm planning to get the international one-loft race stats out realistically in the next 10 days. I'll put that out as a podcast as well. And then I'm going to do a comparison. Let's have a discussion. How much harder is it? I've got a feeling it's going to show statistically it's harder to race in the UK in one-loft races than it is some other races. Why is that? Is it birds of prey? Is it conditions? I don't know. We'll see. Thank you again. Catch you very soon. Thank you for watching or listening to the RPI podcast. And I will catch you very soon. Thanks for watching.
You've been listening to the RPI Podcast. Check out more episodes at podcast.racingpigeoninternational.com.